Hello and welcome to Do You Even Crypto? I'm Natalie Stoberman and I just want to say hello again to my Altcoin Buzz community. It's been a little while, but I'm so thrilled to be back and to be with you all and being able to interact with everybody on this amazing and really cool sounding crypto game show. And now I'm just as thrilled to introduce our guest as well, Kieran Warwick, the co-founder at Illuvium. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kieran.
Thanks for having me on, Natalie. Should be a bunch of fun.
Oh, no fun whatsoever. We won't have any fun, trust me.
Let's see how we go.
Yeah, no kidding, eh? So before we get started with the fun and games, just a little brief introduction to what Illuvium is all about, everybody. So Illuvium, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kieran, is a decentralized gaming studio building the world's first interoperable blockchain game universe. That in itself sounds really cool, including an open world exploration game, industrial city builder, an auto battler, all on the Ethereum blockchain. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did. It's a lot to get out, but yeah, you did perfectly.
Wow, well, you sounds like you guys are on the cusp of something really great, and we'll touch more about that in a moment. But first, we need to start playing Do You Even Crypto? All right, everybody, let's start with our very first question of the night. Here comes. All right, guess the logo here. We're looking at our options. Could it be Bob? Could it be Poppy? Pepe 2.0 or Bull Bear AI?
Jesus. I'm going to go with Bob.
Bob. All right.
It could be
Is that your
Bull
final
Bear.
answer?
Could be Bull Bear AI, actually. Actually, I'm going to go with Bull. I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to go Bull Bear AI. Why not?
Okay, let's find out here. In 3, 2. Kieran, I hate to break it to you, but it's not Bull Bear AI. It's Poppy. This little guy is Poppy, the monkey that has the best look that everybody can relate to whenever they've done something a little unruly. That's our man Poppy right there. So, Kieran, one thing that I'm curious about is how do you feel about the influence of social media and cryptocurrency coming together and being able to build communities that can establish more success in the future for cryptocurrencies and especially the Ethereum blockchain that Illuvium is built on?
I think it's huge. So we have a very, very large community. We've spent a considerable amount of our marketing efforts building that community and getting it to a point where we've got, raving fans that know everything about Illuvium. And it starts with social media. You've got to have a large Twitter following, but then you've also got to have a very large influencer network. And once you combine those two, then you can start bringing in more and more people into eventually your Discord, which is essentially where all of your central communications lie, and that's where I really judge a project from, like how active is their Discord, how many people are in their Discord, and yeah, so I think it has a huge impact on the success of a project.
Wow, that sounds pretty simple, but so effective. It's amazing how far being authentic can take you, right? Well, let's dive into our next question, Kieran. Here it comes. Who's known as the head chef in crypto? Is it A, Jared Gray? Is it B, Luke Dimko? Is it C, Jonathan Howard? Or D, Chef Nom?
Chef Nomi, that's going back a little bit. So his successor was is Jared Gray, but yeah, the originator was Chef Nomi, but now Jared Gray, yeah.
And you are Correct. The head chef, I mean the successor of the head chef, is Sushi Swap CEO, your boy Jared Gray. Let's move into our next question. Whose hair does this belong to? We have, could it be Ruja Ignatova? Is it Carlos Matos? Is it Sam Bankman-Fried or Gerald Cotton?
That would be Sam Bankman-Fried.
Oh, Kieran, of course it is.
I think that was a little bit of a gimme, but yeah.
Well, so what do you think of the trial thus far over the last few weeks?
It's pretty damning, the evidence that is coming out. I think the testimonies are, pretty concrete, of what happened there. And as much as I've done some pretty risky things, and I'm willing to push things pretty far in order to, keep a startup going. But when it comes to ethics like taking customers' money and using it to try and get yourself out of a hole, that's you have to draw a line, right, at some point. And I think he just went past that point. You get into situations where you think this bull run is going to continue, and we're bulletproof, and anything we do, we'll trade our way out of it, and all these sorts of thoughts enter your head. And I think he's just once you start down that rabbit hole, it is very, very hard to go back. And until
it has been an absolute digging up of multiple rabbit holes so far in the trial. But I'm curious, everybody has a highlight or a favorite part that they were looking forward to. For example, I was looking forward to Carolyn Ellison taking the stand. I couldn't wait. All right, well, enough about SBF, but we're still going to stay on the FTX track here for our next question coming up now. Kieran, which Web3 project lost half of their runway on the FTX collapse? Is it option A, Gala, option B, Star Atlas, is it Sandbox, or option D, Axie Infinity?
This one was Star Atlas.
Yes, it absolutely was. It was, and it's horrible to say, but the FTX collapse, it took down a lot of people and a lot of big names. Like, this game got so much hype as a AAA NFT game. So I'm curious, how did you feel about the FTX collapse and how it affected the cryptocurrency and NFT gaming industry?
So first of all, I feel for the people affected. There's so many sad stories that have come out about the FTX collapse where, people have gone as far as, just really, really bad stuff, has come out. And so that's where my first thoughts go to. Then when I look at the situation with Star Atlas, there's obviously opportunities where you can take, again, they raised a lot of money, but a lot of their money came from customers, right? And there's been opportunities for us to chuck, a bunch of money, and again, it would be customers' money. And yes, that's mixed up with investors' money. But for us, we've got a mixed treasury between people, investors, but really retail investors and institutional investors. We could have put that money in Celsius and earned, 4 or 5%. They made the choice to put that money into FTX, and that's just going that's going over the line for me, right? Like, you just cannot do that. And they decided to. They took the risk. They were earning the interest on that with the additional yield, but as you see, it blows up, and what are you going to do? You're now pivoting from a AAA game to a web-based game, and your customers are left holding the bag. And I hope they can they can recover from it for the sake of the customers. But yeah, I mean, you got to have rules of engagement, and you just can't cross those lines.
I like how you're very, very set with what you're willing to do and not willing to do in this space, because at this point, and we're so early in it, anything is literally possible. So when it comes to risk assessment that you seem to have a very great sense of, what sorts of points are you looking for in order to assess whether it's worth taking the risk or not? And what would you be willing to share about those points for future investors or beginner investors in the crypto space?
So we would never hand over custody of our of our own money. The only time we did that, which was a little bit of a risk, but kind of required, was when we set up our liquidity pool in Sushi. We've since pulled that liquidity, and there's plenty in there. It hasn't affected trading and slippage at all, but that was the only time that we've ever said, and it was done through a governance decision where we said, okay, we're going to put this liquidity in to effectively seed it. But outside of that, the only use of funds that we've had is to build our games. And that, I feel like that's our responsibility. We're not out here hedging. We're not investors. We're not a VC firm. We're none of those things. And yes, I love investing, and I've put a lot of money in a bunch of projects, and it's crypto. There's stuff that pops up all the time where it's potentially very attractive, but it's like, no, we need that money in order to build the games. And if we build the games and it's successful, that's how we're going to return a huge amount of money back to our investors, not these quick wins that pop up that maybe look good in the short term, but have essentially a lot of risk associated with them. So yeah, I would say that's the number one thing that I would say to project founders is just keep custody of your own runway.
We're going to end on a good note here. Kieran, when is the next Bitcoin halving? Is it in 2025? In 2028? Is it in 2024? Or are we going to see it by the end of the year?
2024. That's another thing that I sit there telling my wife every day. I'm like, just 2024. That's when it's happening.
Absolutely, you're right. And I tell everybody the exact same thing. Just wait. Just wait and see.
I mean, I do think that it's going to be a little bit after the halvening that we start seeing things really, really escalate. So I'm not sitting here bracing myself for a crazy bull run in 2024. I think it actually might even be 2025. But yeah, there's certainly some positive things come from a halvening.
Well, I'm sure people in the community are curious. Why would you think that, Kieran? What's behind that reasoning?
I just think the current macro economy is going to take a while to recover. There's inflation at the moment is pretty crazy. Interest rates are super, super high, and it's not an overnight fix for things like that. And while we always see a bit of a run up when it comes to the halvening, I think the next bull run, it's more so because I think where the peak of the top in the next cycle is so much higher than what most people, I would say, are imagining. I'm thinking Bitcoin goes above 100K. I'm thinking Ethereum goes, much, much further past 10K. And so it's going to take a lot of momentum to start that ball rolling. And, a few of the ETF events are going to be good, and if we get those approvals, then amazing. Going into the halvening, as the economy starts easing, we should see some positive events, but I think it might take a little bit longer than. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't the case. I'm not sitting here wishing that it would be a longer bear market, but I think if you can wait it out, it's going to be even better than people are imagining.
Ooh, I think that sounds even more exciting than just a bump and run kind of deal. But in terms of your perspective on this, sure, investors are going to be very happy when we see another bull market for cryptos as a whole, but how would that translate into success in the blockchain-based gaming ecosystem that you have your hands on?
So we need to see a bunch of games launch, right? Over the next 2-3 years, we need to see that. And I think once there's a really good mainstream, a really good Web3 game that can compete in the mainstream and start taking market share from these competitors like Fortnite, like League of Legends, like World of Warcraft, Rocket League, like all of these huge games, then we'll start to see our own sort of little GameFi bull run, and people will understand that ownership inside of games that are just as good as their mainstream competitors is a better concept, right? Like the ability to go and take your assets, your skins, all these cosmetics that you've spent a bunch of money on and sell them to other players is a cool new concept that, yes, you can do that in some Web2 games, but it just unlocks the ability with using blockchain technology, and I think as soon as you attach all of those really cool things like interoperability and to a good game, that's when people think, okay, now I see what these crazy crypto guys have been talking about over here. So that's what I'm really excited about. Yeah.
Well, we're excited too. Before we wrap up for good, what can our altcoin buzz community expect to see from Illuvium in the next quarter and even going into the halving?
So we've got two big events. So PvP is coming. It's the first time that we have a competitive game. It's meant to compete with a game called Teamfight Tactics from Riot, a studio you probably heard of. And we're super excited about that because it's designed to be addictive, right? It's designed to be immersive, super competitive. You're going up against players, you're trying to rank up, you'll earn you'll be able to earn rewards from competing and winning. And so that's super exciting, and I think people have been waiting 3 years for that. So that's a big thing. And then we go live early next year. So all of the waits, which at that stage will be a little over 3 years, comes to an end. We open it up. We've got 1.5 million people that have been sitting there waiting at the fences, just shaking them, saying, "Open this thing up." And it finally happens. So we'll see how we go.
That's fantastic and so exciting. Kieran Warwick, the co-founder at Illuvium, thank you so much for joining us. Here's a cheer for you.